In this video, I'm going to kind of talk about paper a little bit. So, I've just posted this announcement today, discussing a little bit of some of the definitions in Chapter 2. They are maybe not worded exactly as the books, but I've kind of put them in my words and provided some of the examples. I have this table here that will show kind of the common parameters in statistics. And basically, a parameter is just a symbol that goes with what we know as a population. And a statistic is a symbol that goes with the sample. And in your readings, you'll learn the difference between a population and sample. And then later in the course, we will dive into some of these key areas, right? So we'll talk about what the mean is. A lot of times we call this the average, right? And so the symbol for a population mean is the mean mu. It looks like a little U with a tail. And X bar is the sample mean. And the key for these symbols is we don't need to memorize them, right? And maybe if you're a statistician, but knowing what these symbols are and what they look like will help when we get into some of these formulas later on that will look kind of horrible, for lack of a better word. But if you know what the symbols are, then the formulas aren't so daunting, right? So I listed out some of the common symbols that we will use in this course, as well as other statistical courses if you take other statistical courses. So we have our symbols for the mean, symbols for our variance. We have our sigma squared, and it's called squared because there's a 2 on it. And then S squared for the sample variance. Proportion is represented by a P, and then we put this little hat on it, so P hat, to show that it's the sample proportion. Standard deviation is also sigma, and we'll learn that standard deviation and variance are related, in the sense of why they have the same symbols, as well as our sample standard deviation is S. And then the size of the population is typically represented by a capital N, while the sample is a lowercase n. So when your readings or when you start seeing formulas, you start to see these symbols, remember this little chart that kind of helps us distinguish between population and a sample. I'm not going to read this to you. You guys can look over it, and a lot of this is in the reading, but I just wanted to kind of put some of it in my own words and give you some examples. The other thing I want to talk about is the paper, right? Because a lot of you hopefully have looked over some things and talked about it in the quiz. The paper is a big part of our course, and there's a lot of analysis in this type of learning. I use it obviously in this course, but I also use it in other courses I teach. I like it, and my students seem to like it, because instead of just memorizing formulas and doing calculations, we can apply what we're learning to real-world problems. And so, since this is a nice introductory course, instead of making you go out and do your own collection of data and coming up with your own topics, we have given you a list to choose from. All right, so you can click either here in the announcement, or you can go to Reading and Resources. I posted it right here in the announcement, so it's quick and easy to find. So there is, I believe, 10 articles here, and you just have to pick one. And I have no preference which one you pick. My biggest advice, pick one that interests you, because if it's something that you're least interested in, when you have to start talking the math and the statistics, which you may not be as interested in, at least you're doing on something that has your attention. If you pick up an article that you have no interest in, plus you have to apply new lessons to it, it's more challenging. So pick something that's either towards your degree or towards something that just interests you. And we're kind of limiting you to these articles because we want to help you not become overwhelmed in your first course. Other courses you take will let you be a little more free and choose. So use this first week to kind of go through, skim these articles, figure out which one you like, because you're going to have to start writing on it in week 2. So I don't want you to have to spend week 2 trying to take a lot of time to find the article and then also do all the requirements. If you can pick your article this week, that allows you more time to kind of prepare the article. So, and they're all just hyperlinked. They're part of the SNHU library. Excuse me. All right, so the paper is broken up into 4 milestones, right? And so our first milestone will be here in week 2. And each milestone will do another part of the paper. And then in the end, milestone 4, you're going to take all the feedback I've given you from the previous 3 milestones, and you're going to complete one cohesive paper to submit for final grading. And each milestone does also get graded. And all those requirements are listed in the rubric, right? So milestone 1 is the draft introduction to your paper. And I kind of listed some of it out here. So your introduction will be 1 page in length, and it will have a cover page and a reference page. So there's actually 3 total pages, right? 1 of writing, a cover page, and a reference page. And the rubric is listed in the discussion 2.2, where you'll actually will upload your paper for your peers to give you feedback, and you'll give feedback to your peers as a graded discussion. So our first graded discussion will be in week 2 based on the paper. And you'll be graded on your responses to your classmates. But if you want a more in-depth detail of how your paper is going to be graded, you can click on the rubric, and I put a link here. So if you click on the announcement, here is our milestone guidelines and rubric. So the first page talks about what should be in the paper, right? So here are some things it wants you to talk about. And then down here is guidelines for submission, 1 page, 12-point, Times New Roman, 1-inch margins, APA format. And the Writing Center will be a key asset to you if you're having difficulties with some of this. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then here is the rubric that I will use to grade your introduction, and I will follow these guidelines. So you know what I'm looking for based on this rubric, and that's how I will grade you. And notice, the perfect is not expected in the draft, and it's not even allowed for me to grade it on. I'm just looking to see how you're doing. When you put your whole paper together, that's when I will be looking for the perfect result. So don't even worry about having to be perfect this first time. It's not even part of the grading requirements, right? So this is how I will grade your grade your paper, sorry. And then if you want some assistance, under academic support, which is on the main course page, but I also provided a link here in the announcement, will take you into access academic support. So in here, there's a link on how to upload your paper to get feedback for 48 hours, or you can actually schedule tutoring with the Writing Center if you think you need it, right? So use this academic support for the paper as well as academic support you can see for just math in general. So there's a lot here in this academic support. It is one of the modules on the main page, but I provided a link in this. My best advice for the paper, don't stress over it, all right? I am not looking for the A++ perfect introduction because you're not going to have one. I won't even have one. That's the whole point of it being a draft. You're going to post it based on the requirements in the rubric. Your peers and classmates are going to provide some feedback. I'm going to provide you feedback. And as long as you take the good feedback and you correct it, by the end you'll have the perfect paper. And your final paper will be done basically by completing milestones 1, 2, and 3. So don't stress about all of it right now. We haven't gotten a lot into it, so you're not going to know how to write the entire paper in week 2. Take it in pieces. We broke it on pieces to help guide you through the process. And I am here to assist you. And I can tell you right now, I am not the greatest writer, right? So I'm not looking for a great, perfectly paper, right? We're going to all get better at writing by doing this, and we're going to learn some statistical analysis through this entire process. So don't stress. Do your best, submit it, and realize that this is a safe learning environment and we will all learn together. Have a wonderful day.